The Electoral College most definitely was introduced in this country as usual, as everything else, it has a racist component to it. The reason why the Electoral College even exists is because the framers worried that states like Pennsylvania and Massachusetts and New York would dominate the presidency. And so they devised an institution where each state had an Electoral College member, basically an institution. It basically advantaged small states to have more power regardless of their size. And so racism helped underpin this because this exclusive voting group, as southern states were allowed to leverage their enslaved people, their populations through the 3/5 rule, because we were only considered as 3/5 of a human being, that was essentially their compromise, and it would enhance their influence over the Electoral College. So they used black bodies when it would benefit them to hold on exclusively to political power.
All of that is then a precursor to what we see now, to the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, with all these guys dressed in khakis and polo shirts looking like they are just the epitome of good, pure Christian white fun, holding tiki torches, marching around statues and symbols of white supremacy and the Confederacy that they are daring us to take down. Because they said, if you try to take our symbols down, this fire in our hands will come for you next.
You will not replace us! You will not replace us!
You know, one of the things that they were chanting was, do not replace us, or you will not replace us.
White power!
And that was a nod to a conspiracy theory called the Great Replacement, which sort of contained elements of kind of decades-old conspiracies about white genocide.
Donald Trump spoke and still speaks for the bigots. He gave them a voice. He was their imprimatur, and where he allowed them to be able to have credibility, and where they didn't have to say those things, even though now they feel that they can because he does. He was saying it for them.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. On many sides.
And this sparked a debate in media organizations about, should we be applying like a, equal lens to both sides. What I've always said when people ask, why aren't you concerned about Antifa, for example? Why aren't you concerned about these like left-wing groups? And the fact is that the data doesn't support it. It doesn't support both sides' treatment. The threat, this is by the FBI's own data, the threat is coming from white supremacist, racially motivated hate groups. They are the ones who are planning mass shootings. They are the ones who have carried out mass shootings. They have been planning bombings. They have engaged in these hate rallies, and that's just what the data shows.
Heather Heyer is run over with a car, and she becomes a worthy sacrifice to them. She becomes collateral damage, an acceptable loss, because she was not on the side of white supremacy. So these symbols, these phrases, the Make America Great Again, the flying of Confederate flags, the existence of these Nazi symbols again, they are there to scare us back into submission, to make plain what the agenda is. But they're also there to move what's called the Overton window in politics. The Overton window is the space of normal. If you're looking through the Overton window, these are all the things that society sees as normal in politics, right? If you move the Overton window further to the right, then you can get away with more stuff to harm marginalized people, to harm black folks. You can get a Donald Trump in office if you move the Overton window to the right. How do you move the Overton window to the right? You bring back the neo-Nazis. You bring back the Klan. You have the Unite the Right rally. Right? You resurrect all of those things. So then those people seem like extremists. So then the polite racists, the regular racists. This sometimes extreme, but a little less extreme racists. They're now acceptable and seen as normal. And then the rest of us over here who were like, none of this is normal.
Tony Hinchcliffe cracked jokes about black people carving watermelons instead of pumpkins, said Latinos, quote, love making babies, and described Puerto Rico as a floating pile of garbage.
None of this is okay. None of this is the America we've been fighting for.
I think that we have to stop getting so offended at every little thing in the United States of America. I'm so over it.
When we're over here saying that, we're now being told we're black identity extremists. We've now got the FBI files on us. We're the ones being called thugs and terrorists, right? We're the ones who are on people's watch lists simply for saying it should not and should never be normal for white supremacy to be the celebrated law of the land. And if we don't turn around from that now, the cliff we're going over will be unrecognizable and we won't be able to save ourselves.
The white man thinks he's losing the country. You watch the news like, we're losing everything. We're fucking losing affirmative action and illegal aliens, and we're losing the country. Losing? Shut the up. White people ain't losing. If y'all losing, who's winning? It ain't us.
Wealthy white folks voted for him. Indigent white folks voted for him. Middle class, working white folks voted for him. Aspiring white folks voted for him. So I would love to see people talk about the white people who put that man in power and the white people who would like to see him return to power.
And now these American voters who had voted for Trump in 2016 and said, okay, he's a little kooky, but let's see how he actually governs. It can't be too bad. He'll change, people will restrain him from his worst instincts, and it'll be okay. But of course, it wasn't okay. There was a turnover in the Oval Office. He was firing close aides and cabinet members.
In 2016, you said that. I'm going to surround myself with only the best and most serious people. And multiple times you've referred to your transportation secretary, Elaine Chao, as Mitch McConnell's China-loving wife.
The big story is still President Trump and all the turnover in his administration. It seems like every week someone new loses their job.
President Trump has fired another member of his cabinet. VA Secretary David Shulkin is now out. This comes after the firing of Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. Then the president's national security advisor, H.R. McMaster, was out. And then today, Shulkin. All of this in just 2 weeks.
The President of the United States just called a woman a dog in an official public statement.
Is it appropriate for the president to call a woman a dog?
President Trump may have once called her his loyal friend, but tonight Omarosa Manigault Newman doesn't exactly sound friendly toward her old boss.
He is truly a racist.
She was asked by TMZ today if the president's attacks on athletes are causing tensions with the black community.
He wants to start a race war. Succeeding.
So black Republicans, one of their main talking points as far as what Trump has done for the black community, which is ridiculous, they go to the HBCU bill. Well, Trump gave all this money to HBCUs. Not true. Trump originally wanted to cut the line item for HBCUs, and it was a black woman Democrat named Alma Adams who wrote the HBCU bill. Trump had nothing to do with that. The other thing is the First Step Act. First Step Act, which did do some good things. However, the First Step Act began under Obama's 2010 Fair Sentencing Act, and for some reason Trump tries to take credit for it. But let's be clear what Trump did when it came to criminal justice. The minute that Attorney General Jeff Sessions got into office under Trump, he began to immediately roll back Obama's really crucial criminal justice reforms, whether it was ending private prisons, whether it was the National Task Force on Policing, which was great. Jeff Sessions would end that. Harsher penalties for low-level drug crimes. So Trump has not been some great win for black communities.
We always ask for the lowest common denominator. We ask for the lowest rights. Gays were fighting for equal rights. Equal rights. Could you believe that's an actual stance you can have? You could be for equal rights. That means there's people out there saying, I think everybody should have the same rights as everyone else. And there's other people like, nah, son, I disagree.
As the saying goes, your freedom is chained and shackled to mine. So if I'm losing, you're losing as well. But the powers that be have been able to convince people that it isn't the rich guy at the top that's exploiting you. It isn't the rich guy at the top that's laying you off. It isn't the rich guy at the top that isn't paying you fairly. It isn't the rich guy at the top, the reason why, you don't have affordable housing. It's the immigrants. It's the trans people. It's mentioning slavery in your history books. It's the otherism. So when Black folks feel that, and they're a target of that, then we see we are regressing. We are regressing. If we live in a country where you literally have legislation being put into place that you can ban books by Dr. Maya Angelou, that you can say there was a personal benefit to slavery, that means you have white supremacy in the home that is solidified in the schools. So we are at an inflection point in this country.
We have lost 81,468 Americans to this virus, with well north of 1.3 million cases that we know of. The president claims, quote, numbers are looking much better, going down almost everywhere.
He just had no control over it. He didn't know what COVID was. COVID shuts down most of, American economy and society.
Said many times that the U.S. is doing far better than any other country when it comes to testing.
Yes.
Why does that matter? Why is this a global competition to you if every day Americans are still losing their lives and we're still seeing more cases every day?
Well, they're losing their lives everywhere in the world. And maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
It was scary, it was unnerving. It was unnerving just to hear, despite who you vote for in the presidency, you try to adapt who your president is because that's your president. But we have one who's name calling and just has no disregard for people. And I don't know, just throwing mud on the office of the presidency in front of America and thinking it was funny and thinking it was okay. It was very disheartening.